This didn't make any sense to her. How did a melody that she had locked down over the summer, last summer, suddenly appear on Jennifer Lopez's album? This was something that really bothered.
She couldn't believe it. How did a melody she had locked down last summer suddenly end up on Jennifer Lopez's album? It made no sense, and it was eating at her. Baby, she said, I know you've heard the rumors that both Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez have edged artists out of the industry. But what if it wasn't just rumors? What if Beyoncé and J.Lo didn't just rise? They strategically took the career that was meant to be Mariah Carey's, not by accident, not by coincidence, but with intent, with calculation. They saw the vacuum she left, and they filled it. And allegedly, this tea is coming straight from Mariah herself. So I hope you're all buckled in because, child, this is messy as hell.
Beyonce drunk in love?
I don't know that. I love Beyonce, but I haven't.
Mariah just flew in from her own planet, I'm telling you. This is Mariah's.
From my own planet?
Yes.
I did.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't.
One thing we cannot deny. In the 90s, Mariah Carey was dominating. Chart after chart, hit after hit. That woman was writing her own songs, producing her own albums, and controlling her image in an industry that hated giving women, especially women of color, that kind of power. She was glamorous, mysterious, multiracial, crossing over into every genre. Let's be real. The blueprint was hers, point blank, period. And if you rewind the tape, you'll find a young Beyoncé gushing about Mariah like she was the sun, the moon, and the holy falsetto. I mean, Bey wasn't name-dropping Whitney or Aretha in those early interviews. It was Mariah. Maria was the one. In fact, Beyoncé has said on record that Mariah's vision of love is what inspired her to start singing in the first place. She's called Mariah one of her biggest inspirations. And if you really dig, you'll find the receipts, old videos, rare interviews where a young Beyoncé is practically fangirling, clearly in awe of Mariah's vocal range, her presence, her power.
Mariah Carey's voice comes from God. You can hear the gospel in her voice. It's very nice to see her in the church. The whole message in the video was just vision of love. Was one of the first songs I heard when I was a kid, where I heard all of these riffs, and I was like, how does she do that? In this little short amount of times, the amount of notes she could squeeze in that one little bar, 2 bars, was fascinating to me. And that's kind of when I started trying it, and it's something that I love to do in my music, but she completely inspired.
Honey, let's just say, something definitely changed. 1 minute, Beyoncé was praising Mariah like she hung the stars in the sky, and the next, radio silence. The shout-outs stopped, the fangirling faded, and people started to wonder, did something happen between them? Some say it reached a point where Beyoncé began to believe she had surpassed Mariah. And let's be real, even though Mariah's legacy is undeniable, she doesn't always get the same critical reverence as icons like Michael Jackson or Prince. She's known as the queen of vocals, yes, but the media has also painted her as the glittery, over-the-top diva who pops up every December in stilettos and a Santa suit. Now, contrast that with Bianca, who's carefully shaped her image to be remembered as the next MJ or a female Prince, a visionary, a cultural force, someone who changed the game sonically, visually, and socially. And maybe, just maybe, Mariah didn't fit into that narrative Beyoncé was curating for herself. But here's where it gets messier. People have whispered for years that Beyoncé's rise wasn't just about talent, it was also about connections, about power. That maybe she and her husband, allegedly, used their influence to shift the trajectory of Mariah's career while Beyoncé soared. Not by direct sabotage, but by strategic maneuvering in an industry where, let's be honest, those who play the game and kiss the right rings get the boost, often at the expense of rawer, more original talent. Talent like Mariah Carey, which brings us to the other name in this conversation, Jennifer Lopez. Now listen, J.Lo came on the scene around the same time. Gorgeous? Absolutely. Talented? In her own way. But vocally? Nowhere near Mariah's stratosphere. And yet, somehow, she got handed the global superstar label, movies, music, fashion lines, fragrances, a Super Bowl halftime show. Everything. And while we can't directly link Beyoncé to sabotaging Mariah's career, the J.Lo connection, oh baby, that one's clear as day. Let's rewind to the early 2000s. Mariah was going through a lot. Her marriage to Sony exec Tommy Mottola was falling apart. She was working on her film Glitter and had secured a rare sample from Yellow Magic Orchestra's 1978 song Firecracker for her single Loverboy. But before her version could even drop, J.Lo released a song using that exact same sample. And Mariah was shocked, just like the rest of us. See, J.Lo already had a little fame from In Living Color, but let's be honest, she couldn't break into Broadway because the vocals weren't there. She couldn't land major music success because the vocals still weren't there. Enter Tommy Mottola, still Mariah's husband at the time, but bitter, angry, controlling, and ready to make Mariah pay. So what did he do? He gave that Firecracker sample, the one Mariah had locked down, to J.Lo. Not only that, but he shelved Mariah's version of Loverboy and rushed J.Lo's version to market first. Allegedly, of course. And you know what? J.Lo knew. She played along. Mariah confirmed as much in her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, writing that much of what went wrong with Glitter could be traced back to Tommy. He was furious about their divorce and her decision to leave Sony. And in her words, there was no way he would allow me to have a huge success after leaving him in Sony. He was not going to let me or Glitter shine. And here's the kicker. After she heard that her sample had been repurposed, Mariah says Sony scrambled to create a single using that exact sample for another female artist on the label. Someone she diplomatically referred to as, I don't know her. Oh yes, that infamous line. When Mariah was asked to comment on other female artists, she praised Beyoncé as nice and a good writer. But when asked about Jennifer Lopez, I don't know her.
I don't know.
Die kenne ich nicht.
Oh child, that moment never gets old. Back in 2002, during an appearance on Larry King Live, Larry asked Mariah if there was any drama in the industry, any beef between her and Jennifer Lopez. And Mariah, with that signature shade and a smile, simply said, there's no competition if the other person can't sing. Ouch.
Rivalries, but I don't think she has anything to do with me. I mean, my whole thing is singing, writing songs. Yeah, and I've been doing this, my whole life. Singing is first and foremost. It's a God-given talent that I'm grateful for. Her thing is something different.
Oh honey, the shade didn't stop there. In a Talk magazine interview, Mariah threw another stylish jab when addressing the long-standing allegations that J.Lo doesn't actually sing her own songs. When Mariah was told that J.Lo said she sleeps 8 hours a night, Mariah responded, with zero hesitation, if I had the luxury of not having to sing my own songs, darling, I'd do that too. Woo. Say what you want, but Mariah wasn't just pulling things out of thin air. The rumor that J.Lo doesn't sing her own tracks has been around forever, and the receipts are out there. Let's take it back to 2001 when J.Lo released I'm Real, a track from her second studio album J.Lo. Now, here's the kicker. Singer-songwriter Ashanti later revealed that the song had actually been saved for her. She had already recorded it, vocals, mixing, everything. But then, out of nowhere, Irv Gotti, who signed Ashanti to Murder Incorporated, handed the track over to J.Lo. Why? Allegedly because J.Lo couldn't deliver vocally and Ashanti's background vocals were just left on the track. Yet, if you listen closely, you can still hear Ashanti's voice underneath J.Lo's. That wasn't an accident. That was the plan. And it gets deeper. I'm Real was originally meant for Mariah Carey before it was passed down to Ashanti. Irv Gotti has even said on record that Tommy Mottola, yes, Mariah's ex-husband, told him to give the track to J.Lo specifically to spite Mariah. They knew Ashanti wouldn't agree to sabotage Mariah directly, so they used J.Lo as the face of the operation instead. But wait, there's more. Ashanti also wrote the lyrics for another one of J.Lo's hits, Ain't It Funny? Not only did she write it, but she sang the chorus and even added ad-libs. J.Lo. She just had to show up at the studio and record over the vocals that were already in place. So when Mariah throws shade about someone not singing their own songs, it's not just diva behavior, it's history, documented, and allegedly weaponized.
How did that J.Lo record actually happen? You wrote the song for yourself or you wrote it for J.Lo?
I wrote it for J.Lo.
And believe it or not, J.Lo almost snatched another one. What's Love? Yep, Fat Joe himself spilled the tea. He said the song, which was originally given to Ashanti, was almost handed over to J.Lo. And J.Lo, she knew. She knew the track was already Ashanti's, but that didn't stop her from trying to take it anyway. Here's how Joe told it. Irv and Ja Rule called me, woke me up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were like, yo, come down, we made a song for you. So I go to the studio, it's 4 o'clock a.m., and they play me What's Love and You Want It. And they're telling me, this is for you and J.Lo, we want the Latinos on this. No pause. That song, What's Love, was already Ashanti's. She had written and recorded it, and yet they were about to hand it to J.Lo again. It took more than 2 decades, but Ashanti finally opened up about how unfairly she was treated in the industry. In an interview with Metro UK, she said, "You should always care about credit for what you do, regardless of the industry. It's really important to give credit, especially nowadays because things are so smoke and mirrors. It's frustrating." She added that the truth has been slowly coming out over the past few years, and while fans were surprised, she was just grateful that people finally know. And when asked how it felt to have people like J.Lo use her vocals without giving her proper credit, Ashanti said, "It's weird. Obviously, you get frustrated for not being credited or properly labeled, but then it turns into something you get admired for." That's Ashanti. Graceful, honest, and still standing. But let's be real, she's far from the only one. There's a long list of artists, especially Black women, whose work J.Lo has allegedly profited from without acknowledgement. And Beyoncé? She's not immune to those same accusations either. But now the streets are talking. Word is Mariah Carey might finally be ready to speak. Sources close to the diva say she's working on something. Maybe it's a second memoir, maybe a documentary, or maybe she's just waiting for the right moment to drop the truth. But when it comes out, we might finally get clarity on decades of whispers, rumors, and quiet sabotage. Was J.Lo knowingly used as a weapon in the glitter takedown? Did Beyoncé really distance herself from Mariah because her presence didn't fit the polished, curated image Bey was building? Or was the industry machine simply done with Mariah, deciding she was too emotional, too opinionated, too unfiltered, and ready to throw its weight behind more manageable stars? Woo child. If Mariah speaks, it's going to be messy. But what do you think? Is the truth finally coming out? Was Mariah's career undermined by a system that favored silence over talent? Let me know in the comments below.